Sometimes the most remarkable stories aren't the ones you find in the big history books. They're hidden away in the black and white print of old newspapers. Today, we're going to piece one of those lives together. The truly extraordinary story of a seemingly ordinary man from early 20th century Iowa, Frank O'Brien, told through the fragments he left behind. Okay, so our story starts back in 1911. Frank O'Brien is a young guy, the youngest of 12 kids of Irish immigrants, and he's just eager to make his way in the world. He's just launched a new business in a little town called Strawberry Point, Iowa, and well, his career got off to a, literally, explosive start. On the afternoon of April 25th, the whole town was startled by the cry of fire. Turns out, the billiard hall that Frank was running with his partner, Tom Convoy, had gone up in flames. The suspected cause? A gasoline leak from their lighting system, which probably ignited when Frank stoked the furnace. The building and absolutely everything in it, a total loss. But here's this little quirky detail from the newspaper report that you just gotta love. Amidst all that chaos, with the entire building basically reduced to a pile of ash, Frank and his partner managed to salvage exactly two things: the cash from the register, and a case of cigars. That's it. Now, you might be thinking, wow, losing your entire business in a fire, that's gotta be rock bottom. But for Frank, this wasn't some one-off catastrophe. Oh no, it was really just the beginning of a remarkable string of bad luck that seemed to follow this young entrepreneur everywhere he went. The misfortune just kept on coming. In 1911, you have the fire. Then, in 1912, he gets swindled by a horse trader. And later that same year, he's on his way to a dance, of all things, when his horse team goes wild, flips his buggy, and drags him over 30 feet down a ditch. It was just this pattern of pure, unbelievable adversity. Let's just take that horse trading incident. Frank and his brother trade their team of horses plus about $90 in cash to this traveling trader for a new pair. Sounds okay, right? Well, the problem was the trader vanished, and it turns out the new horses were stolen. The rightful owners, who the paper describes as a band of Russians, show up and take their horses back, leaving the O'Brien brothers with absolutely nothing. So after a series of ventures that literally went up in smoke or, ran off down the road, Frank's story reaches this huge turning point. He decides to pivot. He gets away from all these volatile, high-risk businesses and starts building a new life on a much, much more stable foundation. And this was a massive shift. On the left, you see his old world, the livery stables, the billiard halls, all the stuff that brought him so much trouble. And on the right, you see the pillars of his new life: farming his own land, marrying into a well-respected local family, and eventually buying into the town's general store. He was trading risk for roots. And you can really see how he built this new life just step by step. In 1914, he buys his own farm. 2 years after that, he marries Cecile White. And this is a huge step, connecting him to the community in a whole new way. Then, by 1922, he solidifies his place right on Main Street by buying a half interest in his father-in-law's business. And just like that, the firm White and O'Brien was born. And this dramatic shift in focus, boy, did it pay off. The man who was once this magnet for mishaps completely transforms his reputation. He goes from being known for his string of bad luck to becoming one of the most respected and essential leaders in his community of Volga, Iowa. He became the township assessor, he served on the city council, and look at this list. He held director and treasurer positions across the county's most important institutions, from the Farm Bureau all the way to the local school board. It's so clear the community placed this immense trust in him. So in 1928, running as a Democrat, he actually wins the election for township assessor. And this was a really key civic role. It meant he was responsible for appraising the value of all the property, every single farm, every home, every business in his entire district. Now, along with his supplies, Frank received something called an assessor's creed. And this one line from it, wow, it just perfectly captures the integrity he was now known for. A real commitment to fairness, to upholding his oath, and making sure everyone paid their fair share. For many years, Frank also served as the treasurer for the Volga Farmers Creamery Association. And this wasn't just some small-town club. This was a cooperative owned by the local dairy farmers themselves, and it was the absolute economic engine for the entire region. To give you a sense of scale, just look at this number. Those were the creamery's gross receipts for one single record year in 1940. Today, that's equivalent to over $3.5 million. As treasurer, Franco Brien, the man who once saved only the cash and the cigars from a fire, was now responsible for managing the finances of this massive local enterprise.
Frank died young, at the age of 53, after a long illness. But in those 53 years, he lived a complete American story of failure, of resilience, and finally, of this profound success. A success you don't measure in wealth, but in community and in character.
And it really makes you ask the question, how do we actually measure a life? Is it by the disasters we somehow survive? Or is it by the foundations that we manage to build? For Frank, the answer was pretty clearly the latter. You know, his obituary, it didn't dwell on the fires or the swindles. It listed the roles he earned through trust and hard work: treasurer, director, councilman, assessor. But most importantly, it listed the roles that defined that stable foundation he built: husband and father. The man who started with almost nothing left a life just rich with responsibility, respect, and family. Frank O'Brien's entire story was preserved in these fragile old newspaper clippings, recording a life of community and integrity. And that leaves us with a final thought. In our modern age of just endless digital noise, what scattered fragments are going to be left to tell our stories? And more importantly, what kind of story will they tell?